So we did this poll in the last 2 months. We were doing them every 6 months. The numbers were very, very similar on a lot of the questions we asked, so we're not seeing much movement with the electorate. One of the things that is kind of key for everyone to understand, and the danger that we are in as a country, this is going to be the third presidential election in a row where both nominees for the major parties have a higher unfavorable than a favorable. It was true in 16, it was true in 20, and it's true again going into this election. That is not safe territory for the country and for democracy. That all we are providing as a party, both our party and the Democratic Party, are candidates that a majority of Americans are unfavorable towards, which is very unfortunate, quite frankly, somewhat sad. However, the voters do have a few solutions, and I'm going to get to that in a second. The other thing is right direction, wrong track is about as bad as I've seen in 35 years that I did polling, 37 years now. 72% of the country thinks that the country is off on the wrong track. 6 in 10 voters, 61%, believe the country is strongly in the wrong track. So that means that not only Republicans, usually it's the out party, is more negative about the direction of the country, but Republicans, independents, and Democrats have a majority of their voters thinking that the country is off on the wrong track, which does not make for a good presidential campaign. At a more fundamental level, 8 in 10 voters, 81%, think democracy in our country is being threatened. Now, one of the reasons why you've seen Biden pick that up is because that's been kind of glaring in the data. And interestingly enough, it is not just Democrats that think that. In fact, while 86% of Democrats believe that democracy is being threatened in this country, 77% of Republicans, 76% of independents think the country is being threatened, democracy is being threatened. I'm trying to hit all the key points and then we can get to questions. Voter satisfaction, just 38% of voters are extremely and 19% very certain the 2024 elections will be conducted fairly. 32% really question whether it will be threatened. And one of the things I feel fairly strongly about, and hopefully I'm not talking about any of your bosses, but I think anyone, any candidate for any office that makes a major component of what they are saying is that you can't trust the vote doesn't deserve to be in office, because they're playing against democracy, they're not playing for democracy. Embracing solutions, and this is something you've heard me, if you've been here before, talk about. We ask a question, do you want your member of Congress to fight for values even if it means they don't accomplish anything? Or do you want your member of Congress to compromise values in order to find common ground and find solutions to our daily problems? This latest survey was no different than others. 66% said that they wanted compromise in terms of the problems. Only 28% said that they wanted their member of Congress to fight. Now that's the deeper problem we've identified recently. In 1990, 35% of Republicans and 35% of Democrats voted in their primaries. In 2022, 15% of Democrats voted in Democrat primaries, 17% of Republicans voted in Republican primaries, and guess what? That 32% are comprised mainly of the 28% that want to fight, not compromise, not solutions. That's what's driving our members on both sides. Now, some don't believe that, but they know who their voters are that put them in office, and they look over their shoulder over that. It used to be we built a campaign based on what our candidate is for. Now the campaigns are built on both sides about what they're against. And they don't seem to understand that if all you do is campaign on what you're against, all you're doing is educating the voters on what to be against. And when it comes time for them to understand what you're for, you've done absolutely nothing to build that bridge with the voters. If we do not start changing our campaigns so that they are more positive about we as a party, what we're for, not we're against, we're going to only continue driving that procedure deeper. Now, one of the things that I do think that we have to watch in the process is, I think in the last, and look, I've done this a long time. I'm 71 and I did my first campaign, volunteered in my first campaign at 11. That means I've been involved in campaigns for 60 years, starting with my dad being in Vietnam and kind of building from there. And I don't know where we lost our way, but we need to find it again. And what is very interesting with the voters is that a majority of the voters are truly centrist. There's 68% of the country wants solutions to our problems. Feelings about all our institutions in the country are an all-time low, except for one institution, that's the U.S. military. Every institution, not only government, but media, religion, healthcare, energy, you pick an area, and trust for those areas and people from those areas, people like you, this trust is at an all-time low. So we need to change that. So let me end that. I want to end it with one last thing. One thing we've been tracking now for 4 years is, on a scale of 1 to 100, do you think, with 1 being peace and 100 being close to a civil war, where do you think we are? The median in this latest survey is 72% said that we were closer to civil war than we were to peace. 72%. And an equal amount believes there may be violence in this next election. So I don't know where we're going to go with this election. I think it's going to be extremely negative. I think it's going to be extremely close. If you're wanting to kind of understand and get past what everyone out there is saying, there's 3 component parts that's going to come into play. One is both parties are basically at parity and have been at parity for about 15 years now. Republicans are about 41%, Democrats are about 42%. So the first question is going to be, of those Republicans and Democrats, who will have a higher turnout? The second question in that, say that turnout is even. The second question is, who's going to get a bigger percentage of their base? And wider base, not the primary base, but the wider base. And right now, both candidates have a question mark on that. Trump certainly has his list of detractors, and Biden has his detractors driven by really 2 things: the economy and driven by what's going on over in Israel and Ukraine. I warn Republicans to be careful focusing too much on the economy, because economic numbers have been fairly good ever since January. The problem is, and we've known this, we learned this under Bush Sr., is that it takes 8 months of solid, good economic news for the voters to come to the conclusion that the economy is doing well. If that clock started in January, which I think it did, that means in July or August, the bulk of the American public is going to come to the conclusion that the economy is doing better. And if that happens, it's happening just as the 2 parties are having their conventions. And if we put too much weight, if we see that coming, too much weight on the economy, that's going to become a negative for us. We'll look disconnected in terms of what is happening there.